This data visualization plots the sheer volume of the modern U.S. military against the rest of the world. Right now, there are roughly 1.3 million active-duty American troops deployed across the globe, backed by a fleet of over 13,000 military aircraft. To put that physical force into perspective, consider the oceans. The United States currently operates 11 active aircraft carriers, massive floating military bases capable of projecting lethal force anywhere on Earth. Yet, if you look back at the founding of the country, this global posture goes entirely against the original design. George Washington used his farewell address to explicitly warn the young republic to steer clear of permanent alliances and avoid Europe's great power conflicts. A republic once sheltered behind two oceans now maintains the most expensive, far-reaching military machine in human history, while simultaneously serving as the primary destination for the world's migrants. Global dominance in this form requires two distinct yet complementary pillars: the physical force of hard power and the cultural gravity of soft power. By the late 19th century, the United States was rapidly transforming from a simple agrarian society into a massive industrial one. After the Civil War, domestic coal and steel production surged, creating an economy that simply outgrew its very own borders. To maintain that level of wealth generation, American businesses needed new markets. That economic pressure pushed the country outward. In 1898, the United States entered the Spanish-American War, capturing overseas territories like Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. It was the first major step toward building a global empire. Then came the World Wars. To meet the massive material demands of conflicts in Europe and the Pacific, the U.S. government coordinated with civilian industries to shift their production lines completely over to building weapons, planes, and artillery. Historically, countries demobilize when war ends. They send the troops home, and factories build civilian goods. But after 1945, facing the start of the Cold War, the United States kept its assembly lines running. The physical isolation that defined early America was gone. In its place stood a new kind of economy, one that relied on a permanent state of global military readiness and continuous armament. This shift was so drastic that in 1961, outgoing President Dwight D. Eisenhower used his farewell address to issue a stark warning to the American public about a new domestic threat. He called it the military-industrial complex. It is a structural, deeply entrenched relationship between the military establishment and the private defense contractors who supply it. Look at how the complex operates. It creates a self-sustaining loop. Government defense budgets supply capital to private corporations, who then develop advanced weapons and technology. Those innovations justify further military spending, locking leadership and contractors into a cycle that demands constant growth. Today, that complex has evolved well beyond steel mills and tank factories. The modern defense budget now pours billions into Silicon Valley tech firms, competing for contracts in cloud computing and cybersecurity. This engine guarantees absolute technological and military supremacy. However, relying purely on weapons to project power creates massive economic strain and global resentment. To avoid collapsing under its own weight, that hard power requires a counterbalance. That counterbalance is what political scientist Joseph Nye defined as soft power. It is the ability of a nation to influence others through culture, political values, and ideology, co-opting them rather than coercing them. Throughout the 20th century, American consumer brands, music, and mass media seamlessly crossed borders. The United States exported its lifestyle, effectively embedding its culture into the daily routines of people around the world. Compare this to a state that operates solely on military might, like the Soviet Union during the Cold War. By relying entirely on a heavily militarized command economy to maintain control, it generated widespread internal resistance and ultimately collapsed. The United States took a different route. By offering the promise of world-class universities and unmatched economic opportunity, it established a gravitational pull that constantly attracts top global talent to its shores. This cultural export acts as a global shield. The international community is far more willing to accept American military dominance because so many of its citizens actively aspire to the very lifestyle that military is protecting. This aspiration centers on the American dream, a psychological belief, shared globally, that prosperity is accessible to anyone with the will to work for it. The ongoing reality of mass immigration to the United States serves as the ultimate empirical proof of that soft power. Millions of people willingly leave their homes to participate in the American economic system. This mechanism is unique among superpowers. If you look at rival nations like China, there is no equivalent Chinese dream that successfully encourages non-native speakers to immigrate en masse and seamlessly culturally assimilate. The United States operates an assimilation engine where immigrants can arrive from anywhere, retain elements of their heritage, and watch their children become fully integrated into the broader American identity. The system relies on both pillars functioning together. The military-industrial complex is what defends the borders, secures the trade routes, and projects physical force. But military hardware only commands obedience. It is the soft power of the American dream that captures the world's imagination, neutralizing resistance and ultimately